Today we are going to talk about CCTV Expert Program Part 3. Basically, today we are going to mainly talk about the practical session. This is the two areas we are going to talking about: smart function using web GUI and local GUI. This is the two areas we are going to touch today.
First of all, I think let's start by showing how to use the smart functions in our web GUI.
So I think our audience might have a pretty good idea about what are the smart functions, especially when it comes to the CCTV. Now people are not only focused about having a recording, they also want to have a reactive response coming directly from your security system. So in the future, like not only on the future, now in the latest technology, what we have is that reactive response. So if you're familiar with high question AQSense technology, we have taken this to a different level where our systems now can give you alerts and alarms only for human and vehicle objects. That is what's concerning for us. When it comes to the functions, there are actually two ways that we can configure it. So as you are aware that we can simply log into most of the high question devices through a web page. So if it is an IP device, if your computer is connected to the same network, you can simply enter that device IP address on your web browser and just log into that device. So I think we have today prepared one practical demonstration for you. First thing I want to show you that here on the screen, what you see is the SADB tool. If you want to learn more about SADB tool, there's a video in our YouTube channel. You can check that out after this training. So in the SADB tool, normally once you run it, you will see all the devices in your local network. So from here, you can understand which device that you want to connect to and their model number and the IP address and so on and so forth. Now here, the IP address that I want to connect is 192.168.8.156, which is a DVR. Let's try to log into that web page. So if you have Internet Explorer, you can use Internet Explorer. Otherwise, you can enable Internet Explorer compatibility mode in Edge, or just use the Internet Explorer extension for Chrome and enter your username as admin and just enter your password that which you gave when you activated the NVR or DVR. Once you logged in, so you will have the live view, of course, but here you want to go to configuration. So in the configuration, there's a separate segment called event. So this is where we configure everything. So here, basically these events are separated into two types of categories. One is the basic event, other one is the smart event. So for basic event, you will see obviously the motion detection, and there are also you can find some sort of standard basic event types. Especially, we will start with one. We start with the motion detection. So when it comes to the motion detection or any kind of event that you want to configure, first thing that you have to do is, if you want for that to work, you should enable it. So there is a tick box that you have to put here saying, now here we are going to configure motion detection. So it says enable motion detection. Even before that, you need to select which camera you are going to enable. Since this is a NVR or a DVR, you have the option to select the camera. But if you are logged into directly into the camera web page, you will not see selectable option here. So because you're connected to one camera and you're obviously going to configure that event for that particular camera. But in a DVR or NVR, the scenario is a little bit different. You have multiple cameras connected to those things. Then you want to select which camera. So after you select the camera, you click on enable, and especially when it comes to the motion detection, you can have a dynamic analysis which will increase your accuracy. And there are three things that we have to configure. So first thing is area setting. So you have to define which area you want the motion control. So I'll give an example. There's a particular camera, that camera is focusing on a door, but in the viewport, you will have other areas like walls and everything, but you are only interested in having motion in the door. So what you can do is, by default, it will select the entire area, but you can click the clear area button, clear all button on the bottom, and just clear everything, and click your mouse and drag and drop and select your area. This sensitivity is like the threshold about the trigger. So if the object, let's say there's an object moving towards this area, and if let's say we have include the sensitivity as 80%, the motion detection to trigger an alarm, 80% of that moving part should enter this motion detection area. So mostly you can keep it at a higher level. That will increase your accuracy, because sometimes some large objects might have only part in the motion detection area. So you can definitely increase the sensitivity to have that kind of thing. Then once you have driven this, just make sure to click on save, because this is one part. I told you there are three parts. You completed the first part. Then you go to the second part, which is the arming schedule. So currently it is selected for 24/7 day all week. But some cases you want this alarming schedule to happen only on selected time periods on selected days. So what you can do is just click on delete all, which will delete all the configuration what you have by default here, and then just draw one on, let's say we'll pick Monday, drag and drop and just draw one, and click on that blue bar, or just click on this green icon to, before that I think click on that blue bar which we have just drawn, and just enter the period that you want exactly. Let's say you want it from, I'll do a tricky one here. So what if you want it from 10 p.m. till 6 a.m. So you have to draw two bars actually, because you see this configuration is from 0 to 24th hour. So if you want to do 10 p.m. till 6 a.m., you cannot enter, let's say you have to enter it in 24 hours format. So let's try to enter 24 hours in 24 hours format. 10 p.m. is 22, 0. The next day morning is 6, right? But when you try to save this, there'll be error, because in your frame you can configure 0 to 24. So you have to split up from 22 to midnight one part. So let's try to configure till midnight one part. Midnight has to be 23:59, which means 11:59 p.m. So you have one configuration there, and again draw a bar, then click on there. Then that will start from 00:00 to 6 a.m. So this is a tricky one. So you can see how we have configured. So like this, you can draw any number of bars here. Even if you want to now configure one from 12 to 2 p.m., you can still draw a bar and configure that. So once you have configured, you can easily copy this schedule for all the days of the week just by clicking on this green icon at the end of the session and just select the dates that you want to copy and click OK. So that schedule will be duplicated in all these sticks. This is how you configure which period that I want this function to trigger. So once you have done this, again, you have to do a save. And the last one is the linkage method. So here we have various functions. So it is categorized into 3 areas. So you have normal linkage, trigger alarm output, and trigger recording. So let's see one by one. So the normal linkage is where you have various options available natively with your system. So as you know that a DVR or NVR have a built-in small siren. So you can use that, or otherwise a beep sound. So you can, that audible warning means the beep sound. If you have configured email, you can send an email. Notify surveillance center means if you have added this to one of our software, it can be IVMS 4200, it can be HIC Connect, it can be HIC Central. The device will send that notification to that software. And full screen monitoring is when you are connected the monitor to your DVR or NVR, immediately when the event happens, it will preview that camera in full screen mode. And also you can upload a picture to a cloud. Only pictures, not available to upload videos. So if you have configured in the storage or cloud options like Google Drive, you can upload pictures to Google Drive. So these are normal linkage options. So these are pretty much standard. In any case, you will see this. And you have the second option as trigger alarm output. So mostly you might have seen some cameras, they have sirens, they have flashlight. So if especially now Hikvision have released the LiveGuard series cameras both for analog and IP systems. So you can select these outputs from here, whether you want to turn on the flashlight, whether you want to turn on the built-in siren, or if there's a separate alarm output in the camera which you have linked with a third-party siren, you can select that also from here. So different types of alarm outputs can be selected here. Then the next option is the trigger recording option. So here, what we do is force the NVR or DVR to do a recording. By default, if you have the continuous recording in place, you don't need to do this. You don't need to separately do this. But there are some cases that you want to see event data separately. You can just select that particular camera. For example, this is the camera D1. So we have enabled trigger recording for D1. No harm keeping that as it is. So a system will have a record of that event. So this is the pretty much everything that you have to do when you are configuring an event. So we have taken motion detection as the example. But if you see all other events, like even smart events, basic events, all have this same functionality, the same configuration steps. Okay, let's check out all the basic events available in this DVR, then see what are those. So basically you have motion. Motion is pretty much clear to you. When there is a motion, there will be a trigger. And video tampering is when somebody try to tamper. You know, when you fix a camera, it is in a fixed mode, right? What if someone try to use a stick or something and try to adjust the camera angle to move it to a other location? So that kind of a tampering can be immediately identified. And same like we configured motion detection, you have the tampering area detection, You can adjust the sensitivity. You can put the arming schedule and linkage method. So it's the same mechanism, same procedure that you have to follow to enable this. And also we have another thing called video loss. Video loss is in case somebody cut the line, somebody cut the connection, or just disconnect the camera. The NVR or DVR can identify that there's a video loss and immediately can trigger an alarm. And another one is the alarm input. So as you are aware, some IP cameras have the alarm input. So what you can do is you can, let's say you have a motion detection sensor, a PIR sensor. So what you do is the output that from that PIR sensor, you link it to the alarm input of that camera. Then when there is a motion detection or like motion or something detected by the camera, or let's say it's a smoke sensor, when there's a smoke sensor detected by the camera, we can select that from here and directly do a event. So here also you have the notify surveillance center, full screen monitoring, just recording a selected camera, that all that actions, linkage methods. So here it is being used for that part. And if you have a PTZ, so there's another point which is visible here, another section. So previously we had normal linkage, trigger alarm output, trigger recording. But if you have a PTZ camera, you can create a preset or activate a pattern, or like activate a pattern. So if you have attended our PTZ camera training, you will know what is the preset, what is the patrol, what is the pattern. Let me give a quick understanding. Preset is one selected position. Patrol is set up selected positions that camera is going in a given time period. Pattern is just a simple pattern. What will happen is we can select the PTZ camera and activate that preset. Let's say you have fixed a motion sensor and one camera is taking that motion sensor input. So that motion sensor is focusing on a garage. And there's a PTZ camera also. When you do the pan tilt zoom, you can focus on that garage. So what will happen is immediately when that motion is picked up, you can configure the PTZ to automatically pan tilt zoom and focus on that garage. So you will have that view automatically. You don't need to manually do it. So that kind of thing you can configure with this. This can be highly useful if you put this into use correctly, especially with some high security systems. Then of course you have the alarm output. So alarm output is the one I mentioned earlier. So here in the camera, we have alarm outputs. Let's say you want to connect a third party siren. So when you connect a third party siren, you want to trigger it, right? So when you trigger it, in the alarm output, notice there's only the option to put the schedule, because alarm output is a trigger. It is a linkage action. But you can here put a schedule because this supersedes everything else. So let's say motion detection, we configure alarm output. In the motion detection, we configure it for 24/7. But if the alarm output for this particular thing having a linkage only during night time, this will supersede that and only give that output during this scheduled period. So you can like kind of set a globally arming schedule for this particular selected alarm out that can come handy despite of having many events, because you fix a siren to a camera and it can trigger the siren for many events. Like it can be motion detection, it can be line crossing, it can be video loss. Like that, you can configure many things to route to that particular alarm output. But on those different events, you might have different schedules, but you might not want to trigger your siren all that time. So globally, you can limit your siren schedule from here. It is also similar what you configure the schedule earlier in the events. Then finally, you have the exception. So this is the last event type that you can find on a DVR or NVR. Here, normally you have the common exception types that you can get from an NVR, especially when your hard disk is full, when your hard disk is disconnected or having an error, when your network is disconnected, when IP address is conflicted, or when there's illegal logging, or there's an issue with your doing the recording or capture. So what you can do is you can even send an email or just do a notify surveillance center. So it is always good to have these in place, especially illegal login and record capture problems. Then immediately after knowing it after some time, let's say there's a problem with the recording, you don't know until you check it, right? But if you have configured this kind of an exception event, you can immediately get an email or notify the surveillance center. So you will immediately know, okay, this particular NVR got disconnected from the network, or this particular NVR just had an issue with the hard disk recording. So immediately you can attend to that. Then those are the basic events. I hope that you got a pretty clear understanding about how to configure the basic events. So let's go to the smart events. So smart event, unless this is a intelligent NVR or a DVR, or I would say IDS NVR or DVR, you have to have the support from camera side to do it. So that this will only happen when you select the camera. So when you select the camera, normally it will show the capabilities of that camera. Let's say you have an AI camera which can do the face recognition or which can do line crossing or smart function. When you select that camera, the events related to that camera can be shown on the interface. So this is, we are talking about the web interface. I think we are having a small technical problem. Please bear with us until we resolve it. But meanwhile, I'll talk to you about how, like, general usage of these kind of smart functions. We have a group called intrusion detection or parameter security. We call it as a general parameter security. So when it comes to the parameter security, we have line crossing, intrusion. When you configure an event, sometimes people settle for line crossing. Sometimes people settle for intrusion, but you have to have a clear understanding at what point which configuration should I use. So for example, let's say you are going to configure an alert when somebody jumps over a fence. So from anybody coming outside the fence, inside your premises is an illegal attempt to enter, right? So in that case, what is the most suitable option? Is it line crossing or is it parameter protection? So you can use the chat and send us line crossing or parameter protection. What do you think is the best option? My question is, we have a fence and we want to find out when somebody jumps inside the premises via the fence. So we can use the line crossing, we can use the intrusion, but what is more suitable? Okay. So I will tell the answer. More suitable way is line crossing, simply because inside your premises, normally a person can walk around, right? So if you put intrusion, even a person who doesn't jump from the fence or who just come inside and go to that area, the alarm will trigger. So those cases, you have to carefully select which kind of parameter protection method that you are going to use. So here, this camera, now you see in the screen, it is supporting intrusion detection and line crossing detection. So in the intrusion detection is like you define an area, and when an object or person, let's say object, because this is not a acquiescence, but if you have acquiescence, you have the capability to select human and vehicle. But here this is without acquiescence. So first thing is you select the camera, then enable intrusion detection, and under the area settings, you have to draw which is the area. Okay. So first you can clear and then click on draw area and start clicking. So when you first click, that will be the first point. Second click, second point. Third click, third point. Fourth click, that will be your area. After you have done the area, you can adjust the threshold, sensitivity, percentage accordingly, but I would advise to keep it in the default values. And you save it, then go to the arming schedule. So arming schedule is very much similar, but before that, I think, yeah, good point there. In the area setting, some cameras might support multiple regions, but here you can see only one region is there, but some cameras can support multiple regions at the same time. So you can select the region as well, region 1, region 2, region 3, and start drawing different regions. Okay, then go into the arming schedule, very similar to the previous one. You can still configure the arming schedule similar way. We are not going to discuss this again and again. The linkage method. So in the linkage method also, you have the options to do the normal linkage, trigger alarm output, trigger recording, and PTZ link. So these areas, these things also pretty much similar to what we have configured in a basic event. Let's also have a look at line crossing. So here you have to enable it. And I would say first clear everything here. Then you have to draw the area first. You click on the draw area. Then what will happen is you will see this kind of a shape with two arrow marks and demarcated as A and B, A side and B side. So you can, let's say you are configuring a line crossing, you can adjust it through your line. Let's say it is a fence, you adjust it through your fence. And you can also select which direction you want to trigger. So if it is a fence, if a person jumps out from your premises, you're not too much worried, people going out, right? But if somebody jumps in, that is a problem. So you can select whether you want both direction detection or only a single direction. If it is a single direction, you can select which direction you prefer, from A side to B or B side to A. Here also you can do the sensitivity. Sensitivity is like how much percentage, like when somebody try to jump over this line, how much percentage has entered. So let's say 100%, we set it to 100%. So the alarm will trigger only the person 100% or move out of that line. Okay. So like that, you can adjust it accordingly. Then comes the arming schedule linkage. Here also in the area settings, you can have multiple lines. So line 1, line 2, if the camera is supporting to monitor multiple lines, you can have the multiple line. And arming schedule and linkage method is same. So today in the smart functions, we have seen only intrusion detection, live intrusion. But apart from these, you have many smart functions depending on the capabilities of your NVR, DVR, or camera. There can be unattended baggage detection. It can be some sort of like missing object detection. It can be face detection, face recognition. But the principle is same. You have three things to configure. One is the settings related to that particular smart function. Here in this case, it is called as area settings and direction and sensitivity and so on and so forth. And some cases you will see minimum size and maximum size. And also if you have AccuSense capable device, it will show you the option to select the human vehicle. So I hope that you got a clear idea. If you have any questions, you can send it to us. We checked how we can do it using the web interface. But most of the time, sometimes I would say most of the time, if you don't have a laptop and no way accessing that device through network, you might just want to use the local interface. So let's see how we can do it. So in the local interface, when you log in, you have in our latest NVRs now, the menu comes on the top, right? So you can find out by that it is a latest NVR. So you go to system, you see the little cogwheel on the top. So click on that and go to system, and you will see the event on the left. So in here also very much similar. There's no big difference, very much similar to the web interface. So you see normal event and smart event and also motion detection. Here, let's see. And in the normal event, let's see. Here you can select the camera again like previous, enable it, draw the area, adjust the sensitivity. And there's a one thing called false alarm filter. So we didn't see this in the web interface. So that is the thing. So in some cases, certain settings might not reflect on the web page. So if it is not reflecting on the web page, you might have to check that on the local GUI. Or in some cases, some settings you will not see in local GUI, but it will be visible in the web page. So it's always good to have your laptop with you when you are attending this kind of configuration, so you can select what to choose, whether you are going to do it with web interface. So if there's any property that you want to adjust is not available in the web interface, you can immediately check this local interface as well. So here you see the false alarm filter. So false alarm filter is a new feature that we have introduced, especially with the DVRs. So if you see K-series DVRs now can support false alarm filter. False alarm filter is similar to AccuSense. It is like helping you to detect only the human and vehicle objects. So when you have motion detection, the device will go further step ahead and just verify whether it's a human or vehicle. Let's say you configured motion detection and just there's a cat going through, or there's a dog, or there's a ball. Those kind of things will have very least probability to trigger the alarm. I'm not saying it will prevent 100%. No, it's not. Very least probability to trigger the alarm. So it'll improve your false alarm accuracy. Then arming schedule is also similar what we have seen on the web version. Here configuration is a little bit different. You have to click on edit icon here on the right top, and there you have to select the day and define the time slots. Okay, from what time to what time. So let's say you have to configure morning 2 hours, evening 2 hours, and night time 2 hours. Like that, you can start configuring. After you configure it, you can copy it to all the weekdays by just clicking on copy and select the weekdays that you want to copy that schedule, and just duplicate that schedule to other weekdays. Okay, and another thing is, after you configure everything, that is the schedule. Then you have here also don't forget to apply. Then you have the same linkage actions what we have seen on the web. So configuring using this also pretty much standard forward. Let's go and check out a smart event as well. So in the smart event, you still see these line crossing settings. Drawing can be done also from here. There's another small thing I want to take your attention. In the area that you select the camera, you see a small tick box, save VCA on the top, right next to the camera selection box. Okay, so here you can also do save VCA picture. Means the system will record the picture of the VCA or video content analysis. So when you in new interface, you have a place to search files. So on the top, the third icon after the playback, the third icon, file management. So here you will see when you search the picture. So you can simply search the data, and as a thumbnail, you can see the pictures. So that is how normally this will take place. With that, I think we have come to the end of our smart functions configuration. Just make sure that you clearly and correctly configure all these settings. If you have any sort of problem, the important fact is sometimes when you try to configure, there can be issues with accuracy, or sometimes you will be not getting the event to your desired device or desired app. Those cases, first thing you should do is try to upgrade the firmware. So last week in our expert program, we have shown you how to upgrade the firmware. If you didn't participate in that training, you're welcome to check out our YouTube channel, get an idea about how to upgrade the firmware. By 99% of the times, by upgrading the firmware, these kind of small things can be easily fixed.
Hope to see you guys in the future trainings as well. Goodbye.